Right now, though, some acronyms for you. OPEC, you probably know that one, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. But what about OFID? Well, that is the OPEC Fund for International Development. Yes, the great oil cartel, which most accuse of being all about the money, has a development bank which puts back into society. It's funded by OPEC's 13 member countries and has actually been around for nearly 40 years now. OPEC provides the financing so that OFID can fund infrastructure, social services, health projects, trade. Focuses a lot on projects that meet basic needs: food, energy, clean water, sanitation, healthcare, education, all those sorts of things. Well, those goals have taken OFID to 134 countries, 53 of them in Africa, the rest in Asia, Latin America and the Caribbean. And yet the fund isn't nearly as well known as comparable institutions like, say, the World Bank or the Asia Development Bank. During OFID's recent ministerial meeting here in Doha, I sat down with its Director General, Suleiman Al-Herbish, to talk about what OFID does and why no one's heard of it. Mr. Suleiman, thank you for your time. I think it's intriguing that, well, certainly I'd never heard of OFID, and I'm pretty sure most of our viewers would not have heard of OFID, and yet it is associated with the biggest oil-producing nations in the world. And it's a good news story, which we don't often get with oil companies in oil countries. Why do we not know more about OFID?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to answer one of my favorite questions, because, you know, I'm familiar with this question. And you are not the only one, actually. I remember when King Fahd of Saudi Arabia, when he approved my nomination for the job, he actually dictated a sentence at the end of his memo saying that, but we have never heard about this institution and the countries that is benefiting from its services. So that's why we are having what we call it information campaign 1, 2, 3, etc. And one of them, actually, one of the information campaign which we are doing is the fact that I am with you now.
So I want to understand the structure of it all here. You've got the OPEC countries which contribute to the fund. Are they obliged to contribute? Do they decide how much they want to contribute? You know, basically, how are you, as OFID, getting your money?
In the mid-70s, the oil exporting countries, OPEC member countries namely, took two major decisions. One of them, they took over the producing and pricing policies of their oil from the major oil companies. And the second one is that they decided at the same time, when the prices of oil was increasing, to share part of it with their fellow developing countries. And that was actually the first milestone of our institution being a part of these developmental activities. Now, how it was funded, actually it was funded in the early 80s. When they decided to create it, it was funded. Wasn't really, it was heavily influenced by the weight of these countries in the oil market.
But what about now? You've said initial funding was in the early 80s. How does the funding go on? Is there ongoing contributions? How are you getting the funds now?
Well, it was funded, like I said, in the 80s. We have like 3 replenishment, and that was in the 80s. And then actually these countries stopped, you know, funding the organization, but with the idea that they don't really ask the institution to distribute dividends or something. So we have the resources and we recycle them. However, in the year 2011, the Ministerial Council of OFID decided to give us another $1 billion, which we call it or refer to it as the 4th replenishment, which we are receiving now.
Okay, then, so you've got the money, and then it's about using it. Now, how does what you do differ from any other development bank? You know, World Bank, Asia Development Bank, all these sorts of things. Is what you do fundamentally different in any way?
We do our business with middle-income countries, and we do it also with the low-income countries. And we take the categorization of the World Bank to determine who is a middle-income countries and who is a low-income countries. And we are working with other institutions: Saudi Fund, Qatari Fund, OPEC, Kuwaiti Fund, Arab Fund, Islamic Development Bank, etc.
And then after you've decided what is a middle-income country, then how does it move from there? Is it that the countries or private groups come to you and say, we're looking for funding, or are you going out there and actively looking for projects to fund?
The countries, they come to us, but we don't dictate on them what project we have to give them. They would tell us that they need schools or hospital or road or dam. This is part of their 5 or 10 years plan, and we just take it from them. We take a feasibility study and we put it in what we call the project cycle, and then until we take it to the governing board and approval, and then they come and sign, and they will start disbursement.
Public maybe doesn't know about OFID. Are the OPEC countries themselves conscious of what they're doing and how the money is being used?
Over the last 10 years, we did a lot of information campaign. Actually, it's not only publishing, booklets or brochures or something, but we are actually even starting to do some other businesses like the scholarship, like the annual award, which is actually encourage people to know more about us.
And so what are they doing with it? Tell me about, just give me some examples of on the ground, real life situations which OFID money is funding.
We financed a project in Gambia, which is financing lighting the road from the airport to the city. Okay, I received a delegation in my office, high-level delegation in my office in Vienna, coming not only to thank me for that project, but to tell me that this project cut the crime rate in the evening by 50%. This is just to tell you that it's not only social or economic; it's even ethical. It's really going deeper to the people and to their turn. This is examples which we actually give to our audience to illustrate that the problem that poverty. The poverty as a problem is not really just economic or social, it is even more than that, it's humanitarian. And I always quote Nelson Mandela when he said that poverty, like slavery and apartheid, is a man-made, and it always can be removed by man decision or something like that.